And welcome to the Sutliffian report. Today, I just want to make sure everybody's hearing me. Can you hear me all? Because I just
Yes.
heard that there may be a sound issue. I don't think there is. We might end up losing Larry for a bit because I guess he can hear now. Okay, great. Um, if there's ever a sound issue, please let me know because it's the joy of being the person in the front. You can't hear. You can't hear yourself. We have quite the show coming. I want to cover Shariah, and there's a few topics. One that I just got sent a news article today that I think will blow everybody's minds. At the end, we have to do this one at the end. But we always start this show with a reading of God's word. And I have been reading through Genesis, and this is my 35th day in Genesis. And I'm taking my time going through and digging a little deeper than I usually do because I really want to get the gold nuggets. So today we're reading Genesis 12, 1 to 5. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, get you out of your country and from your kindred and from your father's house unto a land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse him who curses you, and in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abraham departed, and the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Abraham took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. Now, when God speaks to Abraham, he says, get you out of your country and from your kindred and from your father's house. Abraham does not willingly follow all of what God had asked. Lot is part of the kindred he's been asked to leave behind. Too many times our stubbornness gets in the way of God blessing us. We don't want to do exactly what God wants. This is a good example. And Abraham was told, leave your kindred. That means your relations. Lot was not his own son, though he was treated like his own son. Sarah, that's the one son that him and Sarai didn't have yet. Partially following God's request delays blessings. Sometimes we need to sit and think about the things we have done and how if we had just done what God asked us instead of what might have happened. We do know that in verse 2, God promised to make Abraham a great nation, but he had no son. In fact, the promise of a son does not come to reality until Abraham is 100 years old. That's 25 years later. So why not reflect back? What if Abraham had left Lot behind? The truth is that if he had done that, he would not have grown into the man he became. God did not correct him, but let him see reason for separation in time. God works on each of us in his time, not ours. He knows what will take time for us to learn and grasp and what we will know and understand quickly. Thank God for that. Dear Lord Jesus, Lord, you know where we are. You know all the stupid things we do, and you know when we don't follow your directions. Lord, thank you for being patient with us. Just continue to work on our individual lives, Lord. Keep changing us and molding us to be more after your will. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I have to say that was I've been reading this passage and I didn't, I kind of sat there kind of spellbound when I read that this morning. And I don't think I really caught that before, that Abraham should have left Lot behind. I don't know how I missed that one, but I did. All right. So let me get into where we're going today. Here we go. And the topic again is, can Sharia stand up to critical thinking? I would like to think that anyone can figure this stuff out. This is part 2. And get the mouse in the right spot. All right. So A1.4, I know we covered this last week. And this is from Reliance the Traveler. It is Sharia. It is Islamic law. And I'm not going to beat this to death, but the reason we're covering this is because we're going to get into W3, which is a note. Again, the basic. Does anybody want to read? I'll ask for volunteers. Okay. No volunteers. I'll do it then. All right. The basic premise of this school of thought is that the good of the acts of those morally responsible is what the lawgiver, now that's either Allah or his messenger. That says enough right there. Has indicated is good by permitting it or asking it be done. And the bad is what the lawgiver has indicated is bad by asking it to not be done. Hey, who else is joining us here? Thank you. Thank you. Hey, welcome. Darun, welcome. The good is not what reason considers good, nor the bad what reason considers bad. The measure of good and bad, according to the school of thought, is the sacred law, not reason. Now, if you notice down here, this note that goes to W3, this gets interesting. It's bad enough they don't know. I mean, they aren't sure if the lawgiver is Allah or his messenger, or it sounds like it can be both, which means Allah has a partner. Okay, this is Sharia. It's their words. It's their translation. It's their claim. This is the Muslim Brotherhood voice piece that says this is an accurate translation. I'll tell you, it is not an accurate translation. It is far from accurate. We'll get into that. But let's take a look. What is W3? And there we go. Now, this is where things get interesting, especially when you look up who Ghazali is and you start reading his books. Because when I'm reading Sharia, I get confused because I know who Ghazali is now. Ghazali sometimes says in his own books the opposite of what Sharia says. So I sit there and I'm kind of like, wait a minute. But you have to understand that Islam it has this great purpose of duality. It wants you to be totally confused, if you ask me. That's the purpose of duality. You can say one thing and mean another. That's like holding two opposing beliefs. Your brain is not made to handle that. So let's get into what he says about reason and sacred law. And Ghazali is the guy who's making these notes. It says the way that the medicines of acts of worship work, their limits and amounts being specified and determined by the prophets, cannot be comprehended by the apparatus of intellectuals' intelligence. Anybody have a question about that? To think that, I'm just going to highlight this. You think, oops, I went the wrong direction here. I can't highlight it. That's
Paul, that is really clear, pertinent to what is Quran says. Do not ask.
Yes. I mean, that's a scary, scary thought when you think about it. I mean, don't ask questions. Throw your brain out. Okay. And it's not exactly what Ghazali says in his own books, which is what I find fascinating. All right, let's keep going. Rather, it is necessary to follow the example of the prophets to whom these properties are perceived. Okay, follow the example. Okay, if you follow the example, does that mean you have done any reading or learning? No, that means you can repeat and do. You haven't done any learning. We consider this, in the education world, this is considered mimicry. It is the lowest level of comprehension and learning. Mimicry. Okay, who does that? Toddlers. Babies. Do we expect kids who are in kindergarten to go beyond that? Absolutely. How are they going to learn if they don't? When we got kids starting to read, they have to go beyond it. If you get up to a grade 3 level in reading and you don't go any farther, you will never, ever graduate from high school. If you do, something's wrong with the people who taught you. There's a reason why, because grade 4 is when you read for new knowledge. That's the levels of reading. Okay, let's come back here a second. It says, if a philosopher denies the possibility of such properties in the numbers of the rakas of the prayer, stoning the pillars at Mina, the number of Hajj integrals, or any of the acts of worship. Wait a minute. Hold on. Have we even talked about any of this? No. So a philosopher, they're not saying a Muslim. They're trying to say if anybody asks questions. If you deny the possibility of such properties, and then the number, where do they learn the number of rakas? In Shariah. It's not in the Quran. So you're not allowed to ask questions. Just like someone, was it, that wasn't Larry. I don't know your name. I'm sorry. Daru. Whoever's,
Yeah, it is I. It's according to Quran Surah 5, Al-Ma'idah, verses 101.
Yes, 5101. That is, Usama likes to say that. 5101 is, it's exactly it. 5101. Don't ask questions. Throw out your brain. All right. If you can't ask questions, you can't find the answers. Whoa. So throw out your brain. This is what he's saying. Again, it's funny because he doesn't say this in his own books. At least the part I'm reading. It's kind of humorous. All right. I know this is small, so I'm going to grow this up a bit. All right. Let's see. Anybody want to volunteer to continue reading? This was the last word here. Go back. Right click to do that. So that's sacred law. Sorry. He will not find any difference in principle between such properties and those of the various medicines. For example, or the stars. If he says, I have tested something of both astronomy and medicine and found them to be correct, so that in my heart has accepted them, and I no longer think they're far-fetched or reject them, while I have not tried this, so how can I know it exists or investigate it? Should I acknowledge its possibility? Why can't you investigate it? That's got to be the next question. No, you just got to accept it. 5101 again. That's that scripture. Quran 5101. Toss your brain. He says, now this is where it gets interesting. Here we go. But you do not always continue your acceptance to what you have personally tried. Rather, you accept information from others who have, and you follow them. Now, I have a problem here. If you're following someone who is walking off a cliff and you simply accept it and you're following them, guess where you're going? Off the cliff. Is that anything considered wise? Absolutely not. Have you given up your brain? Well, it's gone now. You don't have a chance. You walked off that pier. You walked off that cliff. Now I'll say pier because I live right on the lake and pier's near me. And if you step off the pier near me, if you're not stepping off on the right spot, you're not coming back. You are not coming back. We had somebody do that not too long ago, and I actually saw it, which was pretty bad. He was drunk. Not too smart. All right, let's keep going. Let us imagine a man who reaches physical and mental maturity without ever experiencing a disease, but who then falls ill. He has a concerned father with skill in medicine. Remember this part. He has a concerned father with skill in medicine who claims to medical knowledge he has heard as long as he can remember. as his father now compounds some medicine. He says, this is appropriate for your disease and will cure it. How much will the patient's intellect demand? Let's see. Someone has knowledge and has skill. Do you defer to people who have knowledge and skill, have proven knowledge and skill? Okay, that's wisdom. All right, we defer to medical doctors. Why? Because, first of all, they went to a school, probably several schools by the time they're done. You will find that they continue to learn. A good medical professional has set aside time for continued education, continued learning. You'll find educators do this also. They don't really have a choice. I'll tell you, I said people in education, they would like to take that time off. We went through what you went through. I'm retired. We went through 4 years of a bachelor's work. We went through 1 to 3 years of master's work. Some of us have PhDs. Oh, keep thinking about that. And we have to keep learning. Medical professionals have to keep learning for another reason. Because the world of knowledge keeps growing. And the change and the improvements of society keep happening. So would you trust a guy who has that skill, who keeps that knowledge up? You probably would. The question I have a problem with is here, how much will the patient's intellect demand? What he's telling you is your intellect shouldn't demand anything. Well, your intellect should demand that the person giving you advice should be skilled and should have experience. Or should have knowledge and experience. Should have knowledge and experience. If you don't have one or the other. So you got the doctor who has gone through all the classes and never once worked on a human being, and he's there to do heart surgery. You want him working on you? I don't. What about the guy who has all the knowledge? All the experience, but he never really learned how to do anything. He has experience doing things. Was he doing them right? Let's go a little further on. I'm just going to skip over to the next side. It says, if such a person says, but how can I be certain of the certainty of the prophet's concern? Wait a minute. Of the prophet's concern? Oh, I probably should have gone. Okay. How can I be certain of the prophet's concern? His knowledge of this medicine. I reply, how did you learn of your father's concern when it wasn't something physically perceptible? You acquired incontestable certain knowledge by the evidence of how he was behaved. And okay, again, you're looking at someone's knowledge and skill. Does the prophet demonstrate he has knowledge and skill? I haven't seen that, not once especially if you read the Quran. I haven't obtained any knowledge from reading that. I've killed brain cells. Do you get skill from reading that? No. I obtain knowledge of what people believe that really doesn't make sense to me, but I don't see it. All right. Let's keep going here. You acquired incontestable certain knowledge, right? Okay. If you did, you weren't reading the Quran. And you're not reading about again, they call him the prophet. The man's name is only mentioned 4 times in the Quran. He's unimportant. If you're calling him Muhammad, again, he's unimportant. He's so unimportant that almost everybody else's name in the Quran is mentioned more than his. So we're going to go down to this red line. So to who? Whoever examines the prophet said, and the accounts in hadith of his concern for guiding others in this kindly way of urging them with graciousness to tact, to improve their character and forget their differences. Wait, this is concern? Is concern skill and knowledge? Keep listening. This just gets me. Whoever examines these will gain complete certainty that the prophet's concern towards his community was greater than a father's for his son. Concern is not the same thing as knowledge, people. This is their prophet. They're saying, oh, he's concerned about you. Did they say he had any knowledge of how to solve a problem? This is scary stuff. Now, I apologize. I didn't cut out that other. There's a piece in that clip I didn't cut out, and I probably should have. Let's keep going on these notes on this one section. And it goes on. At his hands, the wonders of the unseen imparted by the Quran through the tongue and conveyed by prophetic hadith. Again, Muhammad never gave a prophecy, so I don't know what they're getting a prophetic hadith. Again, if you read the hadiths, you don't find any prophecies. You read the Quran, you don't find any prophecies. When one looks at what he said about the later days, which has come to pass. Wait a minute. If it's the later days and it's come to pass, it's not the later days that he's talking about. Latter days. If it's come to pass, it's not the latter days. So who's lying here? Who's giving us, this is Ghazali telling us he's misinforming us. One gains absolute certainty that he reached the sphere which lies above and beyond the mind, and that the eye which opens into the unseen, that none but the elect know. Does anybody sound like they've heard some of this before? Well, you should have. Because they're talking about Gnosticism. The secret knowledge that you get. That only the elect get. Oh, so Islam is Gnosticism. It's based on that. Absolutely. It's not something I created. This is something that we have to talk about. Islam is based on secret knowledge, Gnosticism. All right, we're going to go back to A1.5. Does anybody else want to read? I'll take volunteers.
I can read, Paul, if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Just stop when you get to the green section. You can finish that. Okay.
According to this school, a person is not morally obligated by Allah to do or refrain from anything unless the invitation of a prophet and what Allah has legislated have reached him.
You're fading out a little bit, Larry. I don't know if you can get closer to the mic or.
Oh, well, I might have a problem then, Paul. So is it any better?
It's just me. If you could just speak a little louder, maybe that'll help, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can. I'll try.
Okay.
It says, invitation of a prophet and what Allah has legislated have reached him. Discusses.
No, this W4. Notice that W4. We're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. Okay.
Discusses Islam's relation to previous prophets' laws.
Okay, read the rest of that when the green section is done. Let me know. And just stop. Okay.
No one is rewarded for doing something or punished for refraining from or doing something until he knows by means of Allah's messengers what he is obliged to do or obliged to refrain from.
Let's think about that. Here we go again. Secret knowledge. All right. No one's rewarded for doing something or punished for refraining from doing something, or unless you're told certain things by Allah or his messengers. Wait a minute. Can you continue for a minute there? Can you finish this up, Larry?
I think, Paul, if I can ask, there is a hadith saying that even a baby go to hell. So how can a baby go to hell if he doesn't know anything?
Well, that's
Isn't
the
it
point.
contradictory?
Yeah, and that's well. Let's see now. If the Hadith says it, does that contradict? If Sharia says this, supposedly Sharia can abrogate Hadiths and the Quran, and this is Sharia, so that would abrogate that Hadith. Now, is that Hadith Sahih? Would be my next question.
Oh, yes, yes.
So that would, in this case, that would mean this passage in Sharia would abrogate that Hadith. And that's the scary thought. Once you start realizing Sharia abrogates Hadiths, this is something I've been spending some time with Dr. Lloyd, and I am just mind numbed. I'm stealing from his copy of Reliance the Traveler, and the Dr. Lloyd de Jong is who I'm talking about. His work, I think, is incredibly valuable. And he's been pointing this out to me, and we've talked a couple times, and it just doesn't cease to amaze me. How can this God exist who can't even communicate in, again, this Allah says he accepts the Torah. Okay, so you accept the Torah, you accept Genesis. That means God created us in his image. If we're created in his image, then God gave us something. Okay, we should be able to know what is true and what isn't true. Okay, I mean, what do I mean by that? We should at least be able to know what is good. At the very least, we should be able to have a hint of what is good, what is bad, because God is good. But he's saying here, no one's rewarded for doing something or punished for doing anything until Allah's messengers or whoever communicates with him, because Allah doesn't communicate. He sends messengers. So that baby that's getting condemned, going to hell, if Allah didn't communicate, that baby can't go to hell. That's what this says. It's kind of scary when you think about it. What happens if God doesn't communicate? This is where Allah doesn't know things, and he can't communicate. He's probably the worst communicator. If after you read the Quran, you really understand that. But this secret knowledge, this to me is the scariest thing out of the whole thing. Once you start looking at it, Islam as a form of Gnosticism, it's a whole other can of worms. Let's finish this piece off. So whoever lives in such complete isolation that the summons of a prophet and his sacred law do not reach him is not morally responsible to Allah for anything. So this is, again, it's another statement that baby can't go to hell. That baby can't be responsible for any error. It doesn't matter if you're 92. If Allah hasn't reached you with his sacred law, you could be 120. You can't go to hell. According to this, you can't be judged for anything. So if you got that secret knowledge from Allah, some messengers, then okay, now you can be judged. Well, let's think about that. Does that pay off, getting this knowledge? Now you can be judged on what you know if you have the secret knowledge. Is that really how God operates? Or does he expect something from you? We have a problem here. Sharon, you're going to have me laughing for a while. I'm sorry. Sharon, do you mind sharing what you told me? Go ahead. That was fitting.
About the narcissist?
Yeah.
Oh, I just said, I do believe that narcissists can't handle being questioned.
And that says a lot about whoever this person is. Now, if it's Muhammad, I think that's probably a title. I don't think that's his real name, if it is. But I don't think he's a narcissist. If he wrote this book, he's not a narcissist, because his name will be all over the book. I mean, from beginning to end. But the person who wrote the book, his name could be Allah, or he might believe his name is Allah and Muhammad. Now that would make sense, because if his name is Allah, his name is all over the book. If you believe his name is both, he's more often by the name of Allah than he is Muhammad, then we have a lot of sense here. That explains the Quran a whole lot if you're talking about a narcissist. Not being able to be questioned. What does that say about these authorities, huh? Let me just continue. And those who lived in one of the intervals after the death of the prophet and before a new one. This is where it gets really important. Those who lived, okay, we're talking about, okay, so Muhammad's dead. And before a new one has been sent, were not responsible for anything and deserve neither reward nor punishment. This view is confirmed by the word of Allah Most High. Then they quote the Quran. We do not punish until we send a messenger. Quran 17:15. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What are they saying? Now, since Islam claims there's no more messengers, aren't we free to do whatever we want? Think about it. Are we free to do whatever we want? Wait, and here's the other thing. Does that mean Islam expects more prophets? This is what the Shariah says. Now, this is what's going to get humorous. Remember that reference, Larry? The W4 that's up on the top here? Let's get into that. See, they had to create notes. Yes.
Can I ask one question real quick?
Yes.
In Islam, is paradise considered a reward?
It would be considered an earned reward.
Well, here's my question. If you don't get a reward or a punishment, what happens to you when you die?
This brings us back to the concept of the Catholic belief of purgatory. So it's a good question. Yeah, and that is, I haven't explored that belief within. If you're following the concept of Gnosticism, it would mean you would go to a lower level of heaven. So you might go to the first level, and you wouldn't get to the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, or whatever, how many levels of heaven there are. You would be on a level which would be considered a bottom rung. So that would be whatever, you got by. Since you can't be judged, you'd be on the lowest level, is how I would interpret that, if we're looking at it as a form of Gnosticism. And heaven being a reward would be, this is the playing field, you stay, this is the lowest level you can achieve. All right. Does that make sense, Larry?
Yes, I guess. I mean, in Christianity, obviously, if you look at it from a Christian perspective, that makes no sense. But yeah, I understand what you're saying for sure.
That's why I'm saying we have to look at Islam as a form of Gnosticism, because otherwise, a lot of this, once I started doing that, it started opening more concepts for me to see and understand as far as understand Islam. I credit I credit Dr. DeJong for this. He's an outstanding man. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. So let's take a look at this note W4.
Can I ask you a question before you continue?
Sure.
Don't we have to look at it the way they look at it in order to understand it? Because if we don't look at it the way they see it, we'll go off into La La Land.
Well, Sharon, believe it or not,
what?
They claim it's Gnostic.
They do? Oh, okay.
Yes, they do. That's where it gets interesting. They've been talking, again, you have to look at it. Everything they have said has been building up and been talking about secret knowledge, layers of knowledge. We've only read up to 8, these first few pieces.
Yeah.
And they're talking about layers of knowledge, secret knowledge.
But
once you talk,
oh, okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Once you start, this is their law. So they are the ones laying out the rules of secret knowledge. Now, what we call that is Gnosticism. It's it's a belief that secret knowledge gets you to secret places, higher levels of heaven type thing.
Yeah, but you see, I thought that they said that we all go to hell. In fact, I always I I thought I read it somewhere where they think even they go to hell unless they kill
Yes.
somebody, unless
Okay.
they
Now
die.
they will, according to their belief structure, because they have that quote secret level of knowledge. Now
Oh,
they must be judged by that secret level of knowledge. Now, if you and I don't have it according to this, we don't get judged and we will be on that lower rung.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I just thought that they say that we go to hell.
Well, they're saying this again. Their concept of you have to look at this. Their concept. Okay, if the closest equivalent you can put this to. These are good questions. I look at this as you have to look at the concept of Gnosticism as all these different levels. The more you know, the better off you do. And if you are, their concept of hell for you might be you're on the lowest level of heaven because they're planning on being on level 5, level 6, level 7. Because anything lower than where they're going to be is hell.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. All right. So this is where I found this piece. And this is W4. This is in the back of the book. These are, again, the notes sections. Now, the notes sections, if you take a look, I could have put the Arabic in for the rest of this. You see that little dividing line here in the middle? Let me get my mouse over there. And I can't, there we go. See this line here? It's supposed to go all the way down the page. The Arabic's supposed to be over here. There isn't any. It just has the finality of the prophet's message. I'm not sure what it says in Islam. I mean, in Arabic, but I do know that the rest of it isn't there. So this is what they wrote to us English folk, calling this book a translation. This section has been translated. Excuse me? Translated? Does it look like it's translated? Does anybody see any Arabic there it's translated from? This section has been translated to clarify possible confusions among Muslims as to Islam's place among world religions. But you didn't translate it. This discussion centers on 3 points. 1, Muhammad is the last prophet and messenger. But that's not what you just said. So wait a minute. Where did you get that concept? The last prophet. We didn't read that in the passage we were just reading, did we? We read there has to be more. So now you got to start asking yourselves, were the Ahmadiyas, are they more accurate? This is where the Ahmadiyas would sit there laughing because they agree with what we just read. Now we're looking at the notes, and there's this claim of a last prophet. The passage they use is they say Muhammad is the seal of the prophets. Again, a seal during the time of Muhammad meant you have poured wax on, let's say, a scroll, and you sealed up so you, I guess you would say, you bound the 2 pieces of paper together or whatever, vellum or whatever you were using to write on. And then you took a signet ring, which would have been on your hand, and you stamped it with your signet ring, which you wear to the day you die, unless you give somebody else authority for you. That seal is your stamp of approval. Your stamp saying it's from you. The Quran talks about messengers. Messengers give approval of what the prophets do. So a seal of prophets would be a messenger. This is, again, they have to make this stuff up because they can't find it in our Arabic. Let's keep going. Previously revealed religions were valid in their own eras. Really? So everything up to this point is dead. Keep that in mind. Who are they talking about? Jews, Christians, Hindus. Every other religion in the world is dead, according to them. They're all, and you read this next yellow highlighted part, but were abrogated by the universal message of Islam. Really? Abrogated. Cut off. What if Islam is wrong? Let's keep going here. Both points are worthy of attention from English-speaking Muslims who are occasionally exposed to erroneous theories. Who's calling them erroneous? Again, these notes here have nothing in our Arabic to translate them. These are written by English speakers, apparently. Who are occasionally exposed to erroneous theories advanced by some teachers and Quran translators affirming these religion's validity, but denying not mentioning their abrogation. Or that is unbelief kuffar to hold the remnant cults now bearing the names of formerly valid religions such as Christianity or Judaism are acceptable to Allah Most High. He has sent the final messenger. Really? Where in the Quran does it say that? It does not say that. That's what I'm getting at. It goes on. He said the final messenger to the entire world is a matter over which there is no disagreement among Islamic scholars. I think the Ahmadiyya would disagree as a whole, but it sounds like if we go back here, A1.5 disagrees as a whole. So Shariah disagrees. Quran 17:15 disagrees. If English-speaking Muslims at times, okay, let me just get at that again. No Arabic on this. All right. Get that last passage just a second. And if English-speaking Muslims at times discuss it as if there was some question about it, the only reason can be that no one has yet offered them a translation of scholarly Quranic exegesis tafsir to explain the accord between the various Quranic verses and their agreements with the Sunnah. A few passages translated below will hopefully be. Oh, wait a minute. So they'll translate something further on, but all this is not part of Sharia. Did you catch that? Islam is the final religion that Allah Most High will never lessen or abrogate until the last day. Again, show me that in the Quran. Because he does say, Allah does say that the Torah is accurate. He does say that the Gospels are accurate. So if Allah can't preserve his word, why would he preserve the Quran? And he's already proven over and over again. There are how many Qurans? What are we up to? 38? Yeah. And you know what? Their meaning changes just so easily. Let's keep going. A2.0. We're out of that notes section. The superiority of sacred knowledge over devotions. Now, Nawawi is a commentator. He says, Allah Most High says, say, are those who know and those who do not know equal? Again, that's Quran 39:9. Only the knowledgeable. Do you hear I'm going about this Gnosticism? Secret knowledge. Only those who know and those who do not know equal. Again, from the Quran. Only the knowledgeable of his slaves fear Allah. Quran 35:28. So what kind of people follow Allah? Slaves. This is slave knowledge. You can follow. You can submit. You can't personally know. This is problematic. I mean, I don't want to serve a God that wants to be my master. I serve a God who loves me first. No one should serve a God that wants to be their slave master. He's not worth it. He's not worth your time. That's the difference between the Judeo-Christian God and this God, Allah. He believes he's your slave master. And if you serve him, you serve as a slave. Now, Christians, how are they supposed to know you? Who can answer that question? How are they supposed to know you, Christians? What are they supposed to know when they call you Christians? How are they supposed to know who you are? By your
Fruit.
Come on, somebody.
By
Nope.
your fruit.
Nope.
No?
What's the answer? It's not fruit.
Love.
How are they? Love. It's love. They're supposed to know you by your love. Fruit, it still qualifies as fruit, but the answer in the scripture is love. They're supposed to know you by your love. And
There's a song to that. Do you want me to start rapping it?
I haven't heard a rap on that one. Go ahead. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know you are Christians by our love. Oh my gosh, I haven't sang that with kids since, wow, it's been an age. All right, let's keep going. Allah raises those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge, whole degrees. Again, it's not me saying it's Gnosticism. It's in the Quran. It's in the Shariah. Degrees of knowledge. The prophet, whoever Allah wishes well, he gives knowledge of religion. So if Allah doesn't wish you well, he isn't going to tell you anything. If he doesn't tell you anything, you can't be judged. So why do you want to know?
And also, Paul, maybe I may add a little bit. I have read that it's Gnosticism, because what happened is I talk to Muslim, what they say is, if we know about good things, our knowledge can release us from our sin, because sin is a bad thing. So our knowledge can then redeem us from our sin. Yet the Bible said, no, nothing can redeem you from your sin, but only Jesus can. Now, because knowledge, if you know everything about the sacred law, it will release you from your sin. Indirectly, our knowledge is our God. Isn't it like that?
Yes,
because
there is actually a faith structure very
said.
similar to that. They will give you time off from an imaginary place that's supposed to be in between heaven and hell for reading books and things. You can get time off, and that's actually, there were stamps in books. I still have those books. It says you get so much time off from this imaginary place between heaven and hell, so you can get, you can burn that time off because you read this book or you said this thing. It's the same concept. It's scary, and in the truth of it. I mean, I consider that secret. If knowledge is going to save you, you're in trouble. Let me tell you why. You can know a whole lot of crap and still be wrong. You can think you know things and be wrong. You can be delusional. Hey, us Americans, we have a president with dementia. He can get up there and say anything. He doesn't know how wrong he can be because he's got dementia. So his knowledge is really going to save him? The only thing that saves you, the only little bit of knowledge that saves you, it's not anything that you earn or learn. It's your acceptance. This is where the only thing I'll accept as far as a part of knowledge. Your knowledge is the acceptance of what Jesus Christ has done for you on the cross. He died so you can be saved from your sins. What he did was he paid the price for your sins. Those nails that went into his hands and into his feet, that was for you. That was all done for you and for me. He paid that price. Nothing we do, not a single thing that I learn, not a single thing that you learn, not one thing. There's nothing we can do to earn it. There's nothing that we can do to learn to save ourselves from sins. It's all on him. Jesus did all this for you. He did it for me. He loves us more than we can ever know or comprehend, because I'll be honest, I am not that nice of a person. I am not that loving that he is. You don't want me as this kind of a concept of God, because I couldn't do it. God goes far beyond my ability to love. All right. Sorry. I want everybody to understand that. And it's funny because that came up because I do a lot of posting in a Facebook group called Islam is Dying. And I don't know how many of you know this, but one of the biggest problems with Islam is not the Gnostic faith. It's that they don't know they can communicate with a God who loves them. They don't know what it means to pray, because when they pray, they do vain repetitions. They say the same thing over and over and over again. They have to beat their head. Sometimes they have to do it in public. Wait a minute. In the Bible, it tells us to basically go inside a room, a closet, someplace private. You can get down on your knees if you can. I'm a little bit older, and getting on my knees is not something I can do because I have real difficulty getting up. But go someplace private. Our God is willing that if you come to him, and I say, go, this is what I told the man. There's a guy who was asking, and Islam is dying. How do I accept Jesus? And I told him to go behind a closed door. And all you have to do is reach out and say, Lord Jesus, I know what you have done for me on the cross. You paid the price for my sins. Thank you. Change me. Work on me. Make me whole. That's it. You don't have to do anything. God will work on you. That to me is one of the greatest miracles of all time, that Christianity is not a faith where you have to do. It doesn't require works. It doesn't require that you do things. You might feel God compelling you to do things. That makes sense. You might see God changing you from within. That's how he works. You might feel a little smack once in a while from God because he's telling you, hey, stop doing the stupid thing. But this God of ours, he loves beyond comprehension. This is why it's dangerous to follow a God who wants you to be a slave, wants knowledge to be important. I will say knowledge is, we teach today throughout America, throughout most of Western civilization, that knowledge is power. I will not ever deny the concept that knowledge is power. But is it salvation? No. You can't do anything to earn that. I think that's the biggest mistake that is often made. Some people think they can earn their salvation. Let's come back to this. Then the prophet said, Allah and his messengers, the inhabitants of the heavens and the earth, the very ant in its anthill, and the fish bless. Really, the fish bless things. Those who teach people what is good. If a fish can bless you, what does that say about their God? A fish now has the power of a God? I didn't say it. They're saying their prophet said it. So if Muhammad thinks fish can bless you, okay. This next one here. When a human being dies, his work comes to an end, except for three things: ongoing charity, knowledge benefited from, or a pious son who prays for him. Why he's praying for somebody dead, I can't imagine. But this is where I think we have to be very cautious. The devil likes to deceive us. He puts a little bit of truth and a little bit of deceit together, and he does it often, so he can lie well. So here's the truth. When a person dies, the charity is done. Let's think about that. So you gave a person a meal, and just by chance, because you gave them that meal, they were able to live another day. And then they went on and started to share with others a meal. So that does live on. Knowledge benefited from. So someone benefits from your knowledge and goes out and shares Jesus. And then they go out and share about Jesus. So that passes on. A faithful son who prays for the dead guy. Not working. Doesn't matter if he's faithful, but he's praying for a dead guy. There's no salvation in someone praying for a dead guy. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let's go on. Next one. A single learned Muslim is harder on the devil than 1,000 worshipers. Really? Do you really believe that? Again, this is talking about secret knowledge. Oh, a learned Muslim. Because all those worshipers were stupid. They weren't learned. It's not me telling you that. It's in Shariah. It's calling the worshipers stupid. They don't know anything. What are we talking about? That secret knowledge. Again, it keeps being said over and over and over again. It's not my words. It's theirs that point this out over and over and over again. All right. And I'm sorry that didn't pop up like I thought I tested it. Again, no Arabic to some of this. All right. And I'm going to stop there for tonight.
Sorry, Paul. I got a quick question. Can you put
Sure.
that back up again?
Yes.
Your last slide. To me, it seems like this is contradictory from the first day you did this, where we were talking about how it seems that you have to be stupid, but now we're talking that you have to be knowledgeable.
Okay,
So are we talking about
I
two
can go back
different
there.
groups
So
of
hold
people
on. We got everybody look. A single learned Muslim is harder on the devil than 1,000 worshipers. Now, let me go back because I can do that here. And we were up here. Let's see. Is it possible for the mind alone, unaided by, again, it's, the goal here was to, you don't need to know things. They were happy with you being stupid. So Larry's right. And this is where Gnosticism is scary and scary stuff. Is it better to have people stupid? If you look at how slaves are kept, is it easier to keep someone who has no concept of freedom? Answer is yes. Oh, so let's think about that. Why is Gnosticism important to a God who is your slave master? So he can keep you submitting to him. That's why Gnosticism works with this God who is the slave master. It doesn't work with a God who loves you. He gives you everything. He tells it all to you. This God of this is what kills me about this book of Genesis that I'm going through. The book of Genesis, I had never seen the book of Genesis as I do now. I'm reading through the book of Genesis and I'm finding it to be the greatest book of love I've ever thought of. I've read all the Gospels. I've read all the New Testament. I've read the Bible several times, but I've never thought of the Bible as being a book of love. It just shocks me. Anybody else have a few comments before I get into the news that I just am shocked with, so to speak?
Yes, Paul, I think I agree with you. I think the bottom line is actually what he's trying to say is the people who are knowledgeable, such as, for example, the ulamas, you don't challenge them anymore. So in caliphates, say during Umayyad Caliphate or Abbasid Caliphate, all of this ulama is a part of the government. They're under the government. So if they said that people who are knowledge, if they tell you A, you follow A, no more question asked. That is one way for them to rule the people. I can say this, to make them people stupid, because you cannot challenge them. Because remember, whatever the Allah said or Muhammad said and all the Amirul Mu'minin said, that is equally binding. Now they say Muhammad that is not there anymore, so the Amirul Mu'minin, the leader of the people, has to be the leader of the people. You cannot challenge them. I think that's what the mentality of this that I can see reading this the Book of the Travelers. I have read this too. This book.
Reliance of the Traveler.
Yeah, the Reliance of the Traveler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really it is book A. Can you imagine? That is on top of everything.
Yes, and I'm going through it slow on purpose because I'm going to turn this into a book. I'm slowly turning it into a book. Again, I do credit Dr. Lloyd de Jong for where I'm coming from with this. We've had a few conversations, and I there's more coming that I'll say down the road. I've mentioned a little hint about Ghazali, because Ghazali contradicts in his own books what he teaches in here. And that says something. When you learn who Ghazali is, it gets even more interesting. But yeah, I've got a lot to learn about this. Let's just say that if you're following Islam, if you haven't found reason to leave it yet, stay tuned. We'll keep hammering that point home. And if you choose to leave Islam, Jesus is waiting for you with open arms. All you have to do is make that choice. Now, I have some shocking news, and I'm not sure if I should do it first or not. I just got this news before I went live. I mean, I was like 5 minutes before I turned the show on. And I can't help myself. So let's pull this one up first. I'm going to put this link in the chat room because I saw this and I haven't shared it out yet because I wanted to get everybody, let's see if this gets everybody looking. This is a mind-numbing news article. And it does make me think. Because of where it came from, I was compelled to read it. This is from worldisraelnews.com. Came out today. Now I'm telling you, 5 minutes before the show came out, I got this in my email. Is Putin dead? Zelensky says he is unsure if Russian leader is still alive. This had me shocked. This is written by the World Israel News staff. It starts out. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the World Economic Forum in Davos. Okay, now that should send all the red flags right there. Zelensky's at the WEF. Oh. It's like, put a cross up, whatever. It's like, get away from this guy. The fact that he's at the WEF is all we need to know. Stay away from him. Okay. He says on Thursday he doesn't quite understand if now it's put in block, the name is inserted here, Russian President Vladimir Putin is alive, or whether he makes decisions. Right now, he says, I don't understand who to talk to. I'm not sure whether the president of Russia is still alive, Zelensky said in a virtual broadcast at the WEC's Ukrainian breakfast. I think they mean WEF. Okay. What group of people could be making any decisions in Russia? He says, I don't have that kind of information. I don't quite understand how you can promise European leaders one thing and the next day launch a full-scale invasion of a country. I just don't quite understand with whom we are dealing when we say peace talks. I don't quite understand with whom we should be negotiating, he said. We are talking to, you know exactly who I am, and I know exactly who you are. There are witnesses to the fact that we are alive, and even if we talk about different things, we can reach a consensus. The Kremlin did not issue an outright denial that Putin was dead, but only said that Zelensky, on a psychological level, would prefer that neither Russia nor Putin exist. But the sooner the Ukraine regime realizes that Russia and Putin exist and will continue to exist, the sooner or later Ukraine will still have to give up everything anti-Russian, the better for a country like Ukraine, Russian Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said. Speculation that Putin is gravely ill has been rife for months after several cancellations of appearances. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Do you think? I mean, again, I saw that and I was like, whoa. I do know that,
Do you
yes.
have a link to the article?
I put it in the chat room. I'll put it in private for you because you
Okay,
can't
thank
get it there. Yeah, because the sad part with from our end, the people who are live here, they can't press the link unless they're in the YouTube room. But we can do that in our private chat. This was a shocker for me. I did like, wait a minute. Here's the thing I'll say that equates this to Islam. Putin really believed in his own health. You'd see him out there bare-chested, out there showing off his strength. He had Obama out there, basically, Mr. Skinny Dude riding a bicycle with a helmet on. What do you see? Next thing you see, next to him, you see another picture of Putin riding a horse, bare-chested. Oh, manly guy type, thing. You see Obama trying to jog. Next thing you see, Putin out there lifting weights, and showing off. He really believed in his own health. And if he's dead, did that health save him? Go ahead, Eric. I'm waiting for, if you want to talk, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember seeing those pictures of him hunting whale and juxtaposing that to Obama riding a bicycle with that helmet on.
That's right. I forgot the whale part.
I mean, it was quite the contrast. So, yeah, you can make all kinds of comparisons about who's the tough guy and who's not.
I think, I look at that. I don't know if he's dead or alive. I personally, it's sad to say it's not important to me. It's not. I think the dumbest thing that Americans are doing today who are in government is giving money to people who go to the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Really? Isn't that the kind of thing George Soros wants? Isn't he? When you look at all this vax stuff that happened, who was involved with that? Oh, Billy Gates? Keep thinking. Yes, all this stuff was involved in WEF, and if you can find a whole bunch more, I do recommend going to Epic Times, and you can learn a whole lot more on that issue. I saw that article and I was just kind of floored. Wait a minute. I don't usually get into the Ukraine issue because the truth is, and which I like about this article, no one knows the answer. And they're not willing to comment on it. I mean, you don't.
I'm trying to figure out how Zelensky gets in and out of a country that is so decimated by the Russian military so easily.
Thank you.
I
was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Russian military and you are, the situation is as dire as everybody wants to paint it to be, how does this guy, travel to Washington, D.C. and stand before a joint session of Congress and is treated like a hero, akin to, Nelson Mandela or, something like that?
Gee,
How does this guy?
and I don't think it's his own people that treat him like a hero either.
Who's that? Zelensky?
Yeah, I don't think Zelensky's treated like a hero by his own people.
Some
Well, he's
people
a
call
well,
him
he's-
a dictator. Some people call him a dictator.
Yes.
Well,
they
he
do.
is. I mean, anybody that would shut down the church, he's shut down the church in the Ukraine, and everybody applauds this guy. Look, Cold War warrior, right here. I hate the commie Russians as much as I hate the next guy, but this guy is not. You can always say, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's not always true, because if you get in bed with this snake, we're asking for some problems.
Yeah, but look who's in
me
bed with
personally, I
him.
think that.
Look who's in bed with them, the Bidens. I mean, I have a problem with that. But if Putin's not alive or sick, who would be the next one in line, or who would be in charge? Do you guys have an idea?
Well, that's the scary part of it. Who is, this is the problem with taking down Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Who's going to pop up next? Well, you try to put your own people in there. When you try to put your own people in there, and you figure out, well, that doesn't work. Well, then who fills that vacuum? ISIS filled that vacuum. And the same thing is true with Russia. Who's going to fill that vacuum if he's in fact dead? But the exponential problem is that these guys have thousands and thousands and thousands of nuclear warheads that are capable of reaching your neighborhood within a matter of minutes.
Let me ask a friend who has yet to be wrong on these issues. Brad Johnson.
Go ahead. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Brad Johnson to comment on that this week, and I'll see if I can do a quick interview with him on the response to that article, because that just, if Putin's dead, I mean, it is important the rest of the world know or if he's ill, who is the next person. United States, we know who the next person is. Most countries, we know who the next person would be. But in Russia, partly it's because we just don't know.
I'm sorry, I had to add that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. A dingbat. Kamala Harris is, to me, a dingbat. I'm sorry.
I think she's a 1 month lasting presidency. That's a prediction that's out there already. That is a belief that's out there already. I've seen it discussed on many different forums because of I've heard it the Garage Gate, the Corvette Gate. I've heard all sorts of things. It's now revealed that Hunter had access to these documents because he was seen in the Corvette. Yes, he was seen in the Corvette during the time that Biden's top secret compartmentalized, so this TSCI. I think about that. Eric, can you explain what compartmentalized top secret, what level is that? Is that the top clearance we're talking about?
Yes. There are several different security clearance levels as far as the military is concerned. You got confidential, secret, and then you have top secret, and then you have top secret SCI. Now, top secret SCI, if you have, when I was in the military, believe this or not, I had a SCI clearance, and you are authorized to view certain documents and materials as long as they are within your purview. So when they start saying secret compartmentalized information, that means that information, just because you hold the clearance, does not mean that you have access or the authority to read certain documents. It means that you have to have the authority for that specific compartment of the information. For example, let's say I'm in the military, I'm in the Army, and we're reviewing, let's say a war plan for NATO, and these plans involve going into Eastern Europe or whatever. Okay, let's just say that That does not mean that I have the authority to look at war plans invading Central or South America, or how to defend against a uprising in, I don't know, let's say Libya or something along those lines. So secret compartmental information means that it is compartmentalized only to those. It's like what's that?
Your point
you only need to know basis is what it is.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the humor when they would say need to know basis, and they talk about that when you see these James Bond shows or spy shows. That's really, I mean, it's a very truthful thing, and it's a basic policy. You only get to know some things. You never really get the whole package sometimes. So this is where it gets interesting. You know what Biden's son was having meetings with during the time that he was vice president, right? He was having meetings with China, the Chinese Communist Party, and who else was he hanging out with? Could it be Zelensky's the guy before Zelensky? Oh,
Poroshenko.
yeah.
Poroshenko.
Yeah. You start thinking about, who he's hanging out with, who's he giving information to, and it just seemed like, if you read a little bit on Hunter Biden or you look at some of the stuff that was on his laptop, that would be also interesting. If the laptop has some of that information that was in those boxes, now that would be the mind blower right there. And if he sent it.
Well, the question is what even Hunter admitted that he had no experience in energy. So the question is that, okay, so why is he sitting on this energy board? Number one, how did he get on this energy board? Why is he there? What is he contributing to this company? And then when you start coupling that with Poroshenko and firing of the investigator, this, I don't know how you cannot deny what this guy's up to. I really don't. And this is where people want to be, people. Sunday's show. Oh, just a 411. Sunday's show is called Islam's Blind Spot. And we're going to talk about how Muslims are so blinded by their love for their prophet that they will ignore what he did to a 9-year-old prepubescent little girl. And we see that, I mean, we see that in, even today, when you try to carry on a conversation with just common, everyday Muslim, you say, well, is this wrong for a 54-year-old man to do this to a 9-year-old prepubescent girl? Oh, well, of course it is. Well, okay, so let's look at your literature. Muhammad, according to Aisha, narrated, Aisha did this to me when I was 9 years old. Is that wrong? Well, no. It's a blind spot. And the same thing that holds true with the Hunter laptop is that that's a blind spot for, some of the leftist pigs in this country. They know it's there, but they'll deny it, that he has any type of wrongdoing, despite the fact that this guy's pulling down $100,000 a month for doing nothing on this energy board.
And that's Hunter was asked why he was on that board, and he actually answered he didn't know. He was asked.
I thought it was for money, and the big guy, who we're talking about.
He does come out and say
that's the CFC. That's the China. That's the China deal.
Oh, the China deal. Okay.
Yeah, that was the China deal. Yeah.
But he does come out. There is that's what you're talking about. The big guy. The reference to the big guy is in print. That's in an email. So, but what I think is going to be really telling in the time coming. So here's the. I've heard many different things. One of them is that this information, if it's been there since the time of his vice presidency, it says a lot about who Joe Biden is. When he said he's not, who he was complaining about Trump and how could he be so irresponsible. Well, Trump took that to town when he heard about the vice president Biden having put top secret clearance compartmentalized information in his garage, which is only locked when it's closed. And you know what? Did anybody say there was an alarm on the garage? In general, I mean, when you think about it, do people put alarms on their garages? And I would bet you most of them don't. That says something else altogether.
Oh, that's true.
No, what is telling about this is that at least Trump had the authority, if he wanted to declassify whatever he had with him.
And
He had the
he
authority.
claims he did before he left, and that's
And what are you going to do?
again, it was
Say,
his
well,
authority.
what is the process behind? And that's the thing, the people will sit there and criticize it when you say, well, what's the process of declassifying information? Do you have to fill out a form to declassify information? No, you could say as a president, you can just say just my mere possession of it and transporting it off of a SCIF, which is a secured confined information facility where you can only have classified information. Just by my mere action or actionability of doing this, I can say that I declassified it. I mean, he can do that, but for Biden, he can't do that because the vice president doesn't have the authority. Right? The vice president carries no authority for the classification of information. So
let's talk about irresponsible. So my question is, I'm just going by Biden's doctor. Biden's doctor said he was the same for the last 30 years. So has Biden had dementia for 30 years? I mean, that would explain these documents in the garage. But I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe he's had dementia this long. Maybe early Alzheimer's. I don't see him shuffling like Alzheimer's patients. I do see him doing some of it today, but not the same.
If you watch him during the vice presidential debate with him and Paul Ryan, and this would have been 2012.
Yes,
2012. So that's 11 years ago. He was on top of his game. I mean, I didn't agree with what he was saying during the debate, and I'm listening to it. And he wiped the floor with Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House. I mean, he literally wiped the floor with this guy. That's how good he is as far as a politician is concerned.
Back then,
back then, and that's just 11 years ago. Now you compare him 11 years ago to what he is today, and it's not even close.
It's not pretty. Yeah, this is right.
It's
and again, my big thing with his wife, his family, for those in the West Wing, I think they should all be arrested for elder abuse. I don't think there's one that should be allowed to be. I think they should all face charges of elder abuse when they release his medical records on his mental health.
It's about control. If you have somebody that is that weak cognitively, you can manipulate and control them. And this is just my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. But that's why they picked him, because they knew that he could be manipulatable. And look at all the policies that this guy has come out with. He's held previous positions against them, and now he's for open borders on the south. On the south, he's for banning fossil fuel exploration and production. All the things that he used to be previously for as a sensible politician, he's now suddenly against. You don't make those type of turns, especially in your senior years, as far as your core values. As a matter of fact, when you get older, you gravitate more towards those core values instead of separating yourself from them like he's done. So you can clearly see that just by that alone. I hate talking politics. I really hate talking politics. But you can see that.
Yeah, that you're saying the same things. This is one of the reasons I enjoy having you talk about it, because that is it. Let me pull up this one last article, which this is another article I just caught before I went live today, and I'll throw this both in the chat room and in our private chat so people can see it. This is another news source that I tend to trust. Honest reporting I tend to love. So let me read this one to you. White House security advisor meets Netanyahu in Jerusalem. The next thing it says, Israeli foreign minister slams 100 countries backing Palestinian Authority. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan today, met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, kicking off a full day of meetings with officials in Israel's newly minted government. Sullivan is the first senior Biden administration representative to visit Jerusalem since Netanyahu's coalition of right-wing and religious parties was sworn into power last month. In a statement put out by the Prime Minister's office, Netanyahu and Sullivan both praised the importance of the strategic relationship between Israel and the United States. An anonymous U.S. official told local media that the National Security Advisor traveled to the Jewish state to gain a better understanding of Netanyahu's current policies toward the Palestinians. Does anybody know where Palestine is? Because I'm still looking for it on a map. Sullivan is also...
The NGO is located there, Paul.
Oh, the NGO is in Palestine. That's where it is.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because anybody finds that, I'd have a good laugh. All right, find either one of them on a map. Right. Okay. On here, what I thought was interesting, they have a tweet from the Prime Minister of Israel of the meeting with the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. I personally do not trust Jake Sullivan. All right, let's keep going. Let's go down to the number 2 here. Israel Foreign Minister Eli Cohen this week slammed more than 100 countries that signed a missive demanding the immediate reversal of Jerusalem's punitive measures against the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority. In brief letter initially released on Monday, some 100 governments expressed their deep concern regarding the Israeli government decision to impose punitive measures against the Palestinian people's leadership and civil society. Really, let's think about this. What are these punitive measures? Okay. No, they're not really talking about that, huh? The statement was supported by the UN representative of Arab and Islamic countries. Oh, not a surprise. Including Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. You know, and some of these signatures are people who have Arab Accord deals. Not a surprise.
What is that cooperation of that body within the UN of Islamic countries? What is that called?
Islamic
it's called cooperation.
Yeah, the Islamic cooperation. I think it's states, ICS. I think it is cooperative states. I have to go back and double check.
Okay, so when you have a block, a voting block of at least 8, I think it's 86 countries. I may be wrong on the number, give or take a couple, but you have a voting block within the UN, and it says listed 100. We have 100, countries voting against Israel on this. But when you have that voting block, it's gonna come to me probably when the show's over. But when you have that voting block of these 80 plus countries, it really is a very minimal amount of other countries that are voting against Israel here. So this really, throw out this 100 number is it's a facade.
This is why I like Eli's response. And he tweeted this out. Meaningless statements and signatures will not stop us from making the right decisions that will protect our citizens and secure our future. The interest of all the countries in the world should be to stop the incitement of Palestinian Authority. Well, gee, if you stop giving them money, the Palestinian Authority might not stop paying people to kill and maim. Oh, and kidnap. Oh, wait, and you know what? This week they just had Hamas talking about they're going to be going out and taking part in those things. Yes.
Paul, it was the Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And OIC, I think, stands by itself as well. So, yes. This is
But okay, does the article go into what they're doing with the money that was supposed to be sent to the PA on this?
That's where I would say there's honest reporting goes over that, and then this is one of the few places it actually does Let me see if I can find one of their last articles on that. So, this is why I like honest reporting. They will talk about where that money goes. And how can they do that? Well, because honest reporting works with the Israeli government. Now, in order to give the Palestinian Authority money, the money has to go to it's like a charity. It's again, you have to understand, the Palestinian Authority is not a government. It's not it's not part of a country. It's a governing
terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's a terror organization, and you have to understand those things. And then they have to ask for money from Israel. I don't have the piece right now. You can always go.
It doesn't say. I scanned through the article and I didn't see it in there.
Yeah,
but there's like a
I'm looking
special amount.
for Ed Hirsch, who's on the he should be on the editorial contributors. I just don't see him right now on the list, but his work, he does a lot of work on that, and let's see if I can find that real quick.
But what I was going to say while you're looking for that, the money that Israel is supposedly collects, there's some type of tax they were supposed to collect. I was reading this morning, or maybe yesterday morning, but they're supposed to collect some type of tax, and that tax is turned over to the PA, and then the PA it's the pay to slay type money that's paid out. And so what Israel is doing is they're withholding the money from that tax, and instead of sending it to the PA, so the PA can send it to the families who have had people go out and kill Israeli citizens, they're taking that money and now sending it to Israeli citizens who have been affected or have family members killed by these suicide bombers or these terrorists from the Palestinian Authority, and plus from Hamas and all the other organizations.
So let me just pull this one up, and I will put this one on the screen. So just to give you a clue as to what we're talking about, I'll put this one in the chat room. I did find a recent article on that, and that I think is extremely important. I'll put it in the private chat for everybody else to see. Thank you, Sharon. You've been great. Oh, I didn't even notice you left. Forgive me. All right. Okay, let me pull this one up here. This is this picture says everything. So if you're on the show, you might want to double check that picture there in the private chat, that link. This is from I-24, which is Israel exclusive. Jenin Mayer says Palestinian Authority will always fund martyrs. Really, you say that while you got 100 nations signing that they should give you money so you can finance martyrs? That's insane. Really, again, and guess what? This came out today at my time, 10 o'clock in the morning. 100 people, 100 countries signed in support of PA always financing martyrdom. They're paying people to they're paying the families of the people who kill themselves to kill Jews. And yes, I want you to think about that, because this is what terrorism really is. This is a 3-minute read, so I'll go quickly through it. So Social Security payments to go and Mark say, in an exclusive interview with I-24 News on Thursday, Jenin's governor defended the controversial Palestinian practice of paying stipends to terrorists and their families. Akram Rahub compared the practice to the Social Security payments made to Israel by the son of Jewish extremists who assassinated the Israel premier Yitzhak Rabin in 1995. The assassin, Yitzhak Rabin, the prime minister of Israel, is Yigal Amir. He is Jewish Israeli, not Arab, not a Palestinian, not a Muslim, and the government of Israel pays money to his son. This is the government of Israel, Rahub said. Really? They pay him Social Security benefits. Isn't it the support for terror? Really? You get Social Security payments. Is that the same thing as paying somebody for terrorism, huh? Why is it okay for them to pay somebody they describe as a number one terrorist in the occupation state from this family? It is permissible for a state to give money. And while the Palestinian people whose sons are striving for freedom of their state, it's forbidden for our Palestinian Authority to fund the family of the martyr. Did you catch that? They want to finance the family of the guy who died trying to kill. So you pay someone who tries to kill, you pay the family of the guy who dies trying to kill someone. Isn't that paying for murder? Conspiracy to murder? Aren't you involved in conspiracy to murder if that's the case? Yeah. That's what these countries are trying to do to Israel. It's what these people are trying to do to Israel. 100 countries that would sign on supporting the PA are doing the one thing they shouldn't do, supporting terrorism. Hey, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Anybody want to say some last words? And we lost.
I'm sorry, Paul. I just got off the phone. I had somebody call me from.
That's right.
Anyway, and I was on that, so I didn't hear the last part that you said. It's another great show. I love listening to your shows. I was going to join earlier, but I was driving home from an old man physical therapy appointment that I had to that I'm going to, and I came in a little late.
Yeah, I'm losing some strength in that knee, so I might be going back myself.
That's what exactly. You know what they tell you? Okay, I went in and got an MRI 2 months ago, and they said, "Oh, well, you have significant cartilage loss in each of the knees." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that explains why they hurt so bad." Okay, so let's just prescribe physical therapy.
You know what? I'll tell you this. What kills me is I love my physical therapist because I don't know how they do it, but they make things work better for me. So everybody out there, I would say this.
Anyway,
make a choice to leave Islam. Find Jesus. That's the best solution for your life. God bless everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Paul.
See you soon. All right.